Welcome to the Explainer. Let's talk about one of the toughest bets out there, predicting the correct score in a football match. But what if I told you there's a mathematical method, a way to give yourself a real statistical edge? Well, today we are gonna unlock it. You know, so many bettors think it's just pure luck, right? A total shot in the dark, one of the hardest bets to nail. But what if you could actually move beyond that guesswork and start using real calculated probability? And that right there is the key. Look, this method isn't a magic bullet. Nothing is. It's not going to guarantee a win every single time. But what it does do is give you a seriously powerful statistical advantage. It's all about turning a team's past performance into a roadmap for the future. Okay, the secret weapon here is something called the Poisson distribution. And hey, don't let that fancy name scare you off. It's just a brilliant tool developed by a French mathematician that helps us convert a team's average goals into the actual chances of them scoring 0, 1, 2, or even more goals in a specific match. It's simpler than it sounds, I promise. All right, let's get into it. Here's what we're covering today. We're going to break this whole thing down step by step so you can see exactly how it works from the ground up. First things first, and this part is absolutely crucial, we need the right data. The whole system, everything we're about to do, hinges on having solid, accurate numbers for how teams and the league have been performing, usually just for the current season. Basically, we're going to follow a 4-step formula. We'll start big picture with the league, then drill down into each team's specific strengths and weaknesses, and finally, we'll put it all together to predict what's likely to happen. Okay, step 1. We need a baseline, a starting point for the whole league. And it's super simple. Just take the total number of goals scored so far and divide that by the total number of games played. Easy. So let's use a real-world example to make this clear. We'll look at the 2016-17 La Liga season. As you can see, the average goals scored was about 1.66 for home teams and 1.28 for away teams. Remember those two numbers because they are the simple but super important foundation for everything we're about to build. All right, now that we have our league average, we can start to zoom in on a specific team. We need to figure out how much better or worse their attack is compared to that average. Let's use a real match to see this in action. Atletico Madrid versus Valencia. So first we look at Atletico's average goals when they're playing at home, which was about 2.1. Then we just divide that by the league average for home goals. That gives us their attack strength of 1.212. What does that number mean? It's simple. It tells us they're about 21% better at scoring at home than the average team in the league. See? We're already getting specific. Next, we've got to do the same thing, but for the other side of the ball. We're going to calculate the opponent's defense strength. This time, we're looking at how many goals they tend to give up on average when they're playing away. Okay, so Valencia in this case conceded about 1.74 goals on average away from home. We divide that by the league average and we get a defense strength of 1.044. That tells us their defense is just a little bit, about 4% weaker than the league average when they're on the road. Now we're getting a really clear picture of both teams. Okay, so now we have our individual team ratings. This is where it gets really interesting. We're going to combine these numbers to actually predict the likely number of goals for each team in this specific head-to-head match. And here's how we do it for Atletico. You just multiply 3 numbers together. You take Atletico's attack strength, you multiply that by Valencia's defense strength, and then you multiply that result by the league's average for home goals. That's it. When you run those numbers, you get an expected goal value of about 2.1 for Atletico Madrid. Now, we do the same kind of calculation for Valencia's attack versus Atletico's defense, and that gives us an expected goal value of just 0.727 for them. So right away, the model's telling us it's probably going to be a low-scoring day for Valencia. Okay, now for the part that sounds complicated but is actually the easiest step. We take those 2 numbers we just found and plug them into a Poisson distribution calculator. And you don't need to be a math genius for this. There are tons of free calculators online that do all the hard work for you. You literally just punch in those 2 expected goal values. And boom, here's what it spits out. The calculator gives us a crystal clear percentage chance for each team to score 0 goals, 1 goal, 2 goals, and so on. Check this out. Atletico has only a 12% chance of not scoring at all, while Valencia has a huge 48% chance of getting shut out. That's a powerful insight. Looking at it on a chart makes it even easier to see. For Atletico, the model says the most likely outcome is for them to score 2 goals. That's a 28% chance. Right behind that is 1 goal, at about 27%. This is exactly the kind of specific, data-driven insight that takes you way beyond just a gut feeling. And speaking of insights, if you are looking for a list of the best betting sites in your country with a 300% bonus, just search for betplace.us in your browser. Okay, so here's the crucial part. Now you can figure out the probability of any correct score. For example, if you want to know the chance of a 1-0 win for Athletic, you just multiplied their chance of scoring 1 goal by Valencia's chance of scoring 0 goals. And that simple bit of math gives us a 12.89% chance for a 1-0 final score. This is huge. It's not a guess anymore. It is a concrete statistical probability. And now you can take that number and compare it directly to what the bookies are offering to see if there's any real value to be found. Okay, hold on. Before you run off and start plugging numbers in for every game this weekend, there's something really important we need to talk about: the limits of this model, what it can't do. You have to remember, this model is 100% based on historical data, on season-long averages. It gives you an amazing statistical baseline, but it is not a crystal ball. It has no idea if the star striker is out with an injury, if a new manager just took over, or if the weather is terrible. It's just numbers. So here's the big takeaway. Think of the Poisson model as a powerful tool in your betting toolkit. It's not a replacement for your own knowledge. The model gives you the hard numbers, the statistical probability. But it's up to you to provide the context, the judgment, and all that real-world info the model misses. And if you're looking for the best places to apply that judgment, if you're looking for a list of the best betting sites in your country with a 300% bonus, just search for betplace.us in your browser. Because at the end of the day, that's the name of the game, isn't it? Can you find that gap between the statistical probability and the bookmaker's odds? When you start using a method like this, you're not just guessing anymore. You are systematically hunting for value. You're giving yourself a true data-driven edge. And for those of you ready to put that edge to the test, one last time, if you are looking for a list of the best betting sites in your country with a 300% bonus, just search for betplace.us in your browser.